Okay, I've got to stop doing those personal rambles at first.
Yes.
Whew. Mark, welcome back.
Yeah.
I'm Scott. That
Welcome
one's
back.
Mark. Great Scott Marcus. Watch the first part. Anyway, Mark, curveball ramble that I kind of wanted to throw at you. You and I have kind of been ruminating on this a lot lately. What is a man? When we grew up, I think a man was a guy who spit and drank beer and shot guns and shot shotguns and fucked
Killed a.
toaster ovens and
Oh yeah,
bit
yeah.
the heads off snakes and uh, you get it.
That's a man. Yeah. Killing bears with your bare hands and
Yes, exactly.
uh
And
yeah.
wore Duluth Trading Company jeans apparently, or underwear, or whatever those commercials are for. Those are
I don't know.
special. You haven't seen those?
I don't think so.
Should look some up sometime. They're interesting. Anyway, um, so yeah, we've kind of been talking about this, and I think that one of the things I mentioned in the first topic even kind of applies to this in a way where it's just like too often I feel like I'm the only adult in the room, and that doesn't mean that we can't laugh and have a good time and uh, enjoy immature things, but it's just
Hmm.
like knowing
Like
the
when you
time,
delete 69 items from your recycle bin. That's funny.
knowing the time and place for it.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just like yeah, I want to know what you think, especially these days, is really defining of a man. Do I have to start?
Um no, actually I think I had a really good idea on this initially. Mm,
And it's gone.
uh, One thing I want to say is responsibility.
Mm.
I think having responsibility over yourself.
Especially finances.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I didn't even think about that at first, but
Mm.
yes. Just being responsible for yourself, being responsible for others in your life, others around you, or being responsible for anybody that could be affected by your actions. I think to be responsible for yourself, it could be in terms of your health, in terms of just your overall well-being. You know,
That's
eating
a big
healthy is a
one.
responsibility, I think. Yeah.
The being responsible to your health, especially like I don't think you have to 100% be required to eat healthy all the time.
No,
Fuck,
dude.
I'm back to work. Yes, that's part of why I want to stop down in Columbus. Um,
So tonight I am not a man.
actually, so like the priorities for visiting Columbus are Canes, Mark, Potbelly.
That is like when Dakota comes down, like he has to have canes. Like has to.
I'm going to get a 6-finger box, 2 pieces of toast, slaw, large fry. Um,
and
that's
with
part
an
of the
extra large side of regret.
yes. That
Hmm.
is one of the biggest reasons I always used to work out like I did, and one of the big reasons I work out like I do
Uh,
now, because I want to be able to eat whatever the fuck I want, whenever the fuck
mm.
I want. Well, not whenever, because sometimes I
Uh,
just, you know,
when you're approaching 30, though, it becomes almost impossible to
it
get away
does,
with it.
it does. But
Um,
uh,
but I guess like the big thing that really kind of resonated about like responsibility is I was talking to someone earlier whose brother has a small child,
a small
and
child.
a small child. He has a kid, and he's married. The wife is pregnant again, but just the way that I'll say not the way they treat the kid, but basically, it makes it seem like the husband and wife are living as if they don't have kids. You know, they're pawning off their kid on grandparents and family members and going to concerts and they're in their mid 30s, and it's just like you have a child, and I don't have a kid, but I know for a fact that once you have a kid, everything that you do in your life is for them. Like you should no longer be selfish.
Eh,
You
I
I
mean, I
mean,
think there should
yeah,
still be.
you're allowed to have your time. Like, yeah, you can have your fun, but like, this is out of control for this certain situation. Like,
Yes,
I'm not going to get into any details for it, but it's just like to
obviously.
me, like, I would not say he's a man because he just does not embody the responsibility of a good parent.
And there are a lot of parents out there who just aren't men and women at
Yeah,
this
well, I
point in
mean,
their life,
like deadbeat dads
unfortunately.
that don't
Yeah.
pay child support, like they're not men. Like so that's what this kind of why I thought of responsibility was for that case. And then I, of course, thought about it on myself, eating healthy, being responsible for people around you, blah blah blah. But that was my big one.
Sometimes there are sons and daughters who are more of adults than even their parents are
Yeah,
at their
absolutely,
at the point in their life. I was actually
absolutely.
talking to I'll just go with chick for now. The other day, who I you know
That's like the fourth word for women that we use today.
well, I think there's also like this kind of God, I hate to say game that is played because for someone who plays games, I hate playing games in like the real world where it's just there's kind of this game that one can play when getting to know someone where it's just like don't want to judge you too fast, so you kind of step carefully. And I guess I just am simply using the word chick or lady. There's the fifth for like gauging her just because I don't really know her that well yet. And either way, yeah, like I was talking to her and she just really has her shit together, and she's kind of unfortunately required to have her shit together because unfortunately, it sounds like one or possibly both of her parents kind of failed. And yeah, that stuff is really hard. But good on her and good on those that really can just buckle up, I guess, and deal with things like getting punched in the face by life. And that's kind of another one of those things where it's just like how to take the punches, small and large. You can just take them. That in fact, here I'm gonna phrase it like this: men and women know how to. I guess we should just amend this and be like, what is a man and what is a woman and what is an adult?
Yeah.
Adults know how to handle their negative feelings. They know how to handle them. I was talking to a friend, and I'm sure he'll appreciate my kind of commenting on this. Men and women know how to handle their negativity. If someone came up to me, if I was living with someone, and they came up to me and they said, I can't be doing this like this right now. And let's put this in a bit of context. Jason, if you're watching, don't. It's gonna be okay. So basically, I have.
It doesn't look like it.
I'm trying to skirt this so carefully, but at the same time, I'm just going to get a tiny bit personal. Basically, two people living together. They both work from home. One works on the phone. The other has a daycare. See how those two things don't mesh. And so he felt like, for the benefit of the relationship, that he needed to move out, that he needed to have his own place, but they're still together and doing great, actually. But that initial reaction to the proposition was, when you hear that, when you hear that you've been living with someone for a while and that they want to move out, the initial reaction is like, and
Pretty
so
much, yeah.
you want to, so there's these visceral feelings that want to come out. But an adult knows how to handle that, where you don't immediately just lash out, where there isn't this negativity thrown at that person. There isn't name calling. There isn't irrational assumptions. This is a big one. This is a really big one where basically you're trying to put yourself in someone else's shoes when you shouldn't be. You shouldn't be judging that person like that, and you're trying to derive some conclusion that probably isn't there. Let's think of a good example. Your boss makes a decision at work, doesn't make any sense to you. In fact, you actually spoke out against doing this at work. And oh wait, that could be linked to meh. Anyway, I didn't even realize that I actually have a job right now. I was kind of thinking in your shoes. Fuck
it.
Speaking very generally, you're someone's boss. Decides to make a decision that you spoke out against. And you feel like this has been happening frequently, where they keep making decisions that you spoke out against, and you start to take it personally. But instead, behind the scenes, there is something that you're not seeing. And so it's just like people like to make irrational assumptions because people get really in their heads that the world revolves around them, but it doesn't. And so often there is like this, oh, they're doing it because of me, but it's just like, that's probably not the case. It might not have anything to do with you, and they might even feel bad that, like, oh, no, like, they spoke out against this, and I'm, doing this anyway. I hate to be so vague, but we both have jobs that we don't want to talk about on this podcast. Doesn't have anything to do with mine, doesn't have anything to do with yours, but at the same time, we don't want to make those linkages. Nonetheless, I think it's a very mature thing to step back from yourself in a lot of these situations. To be an adult is to handle your negativity, to not put it out there, to try to be as rational about it as possible, to confront it if you have to, where you're with your significant other and they, bring up a topic and you just say, hey, I'm feeling really rough about this. I need to walk away for like 5 minutes. And another thing about being an adult is fucking allowing someone to walk away, or to also recognize when it is a bad time to walk away, where you have to try to complete that argument, that conversation.
Yes. So really, this what is a man is more like what is an adult?
What
makes a person an adult?
Well, so like I also do want to circle back a bit to like what used to be a man, like watching sports ball very frequently. I almost think that sometimes that can actually take away from what makes you manly. Not saying that like watching sports is actually negative to being a man, but like overdoing it, knowing proportion. Go on, you actually watch baseball, so
yeah. Well, I think the divide here, it's between watching sports. Watching sports is fine. Like I wouldn't think I'd consider it manly either, but at the same time, I think it's a different kind of man that is not in a good one, that watches and criticizes sports of all varieties, doesn't matter what it is, and thinks that they know everything about it when they might have played it once. Like they're not professional level, never have been, never will be. That's I guess one of my giant pet peeves about
I bet
about a lot of things. I mean, granted, I've done it before. Watching baseball, and I'm like, God damn it, Brian, why'd you put that guy in?
It's almost better said as men consuming competition, because like we even do this when we're playing video games, where it's just like, why did that guy make that decision? When it's just like that person might actually be a better player than us, and again, that also applies to just regular sports as well. It applies to like playing Rocket League. It applies to StarCraft. It's just like, why did they make that decision? Probably because they're far better informed than we are. That's probably why. Possible. Also,
and like knowing that and accepting that, like that is what makes you an adult as opposed to an infant or a child.
An infant toddler baby.
Yes, man baby.
Also, stepping outside of the perspective of the camera, this is one of my pet peeves, when people like judge from the viewing angle that they are getting through their TV set, when it's just like you realize that like that person isn't watching a bunch of different camera angles. Same thing applies to games, where it's just like, yeah, that person was on the other side of a wall when you were criticizing them, so like they did not have your viewing angle whatsoever. The lighting that might even be coming like down on a baseball player as they're trying to catch a ball, and fucking goes back to that baseball player who got booed the one time, where it was just like he missed a catch and everybody started booing him, and he flicked them off, and it's just like, I think he deservedly, he should have flicked them off. Not very professional, not incredibly mature, but far more people in that audience that were way more immature than he was.
Yeah, because like that's exactly what happened. Like he lost the ball in the lights, and I'm sure like 90% of the people in the stands have no idea what it's like to stand in, center field at a stadium with bright white lights and trying to find a small white object moving at a very high speed
Mm-hmm.
through said bright white lights.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
So I'm curious about how you feel about this one, whether it's just for being a man, woman, child, or adult. Getting down in the muck. Yeah. So like,
You mean like
you
like being
don't.
dirty, rugged type thing? Is that what you're trying to get at?
Nah. I guess I'm more referring to like someone's an asshole, just blatantly an asshole.
All right,
Do
I can
you
identify with that.
do you stoop to their level, or do you rise above it?
It's it's easy to do it.
It is.
It's easy to be like, all right, asshole. Well, I'll show you, motherfucker. Um, Rising above it definitely makes a person more of an adult. But at the same time, it's really gratifying when you can just shove something in someone's face. um, I don't know. I mean, it's definitely in the immature thing to try to lower yourself to that level. It takes a more mature person to either A, not let it bother them, or B, like take the high road and let it bother you, but just don't say anything back. I don't. Yeah.
I think sometimes, yeah, this is one of those where there's no clear line, where it's just like sometimes you have to get down there and punch them in the head.
Yeah.
And just to really get the point across that they
One
need to
more.
stop being such an they need to stop being such an asshole. And maybe that really is the point where trying to find the adult decision is tough.
It kind of goes in line with tough love. Sometimes I've found out in numerous circumstances where someone's just being overly stubborn about something, or like I'll just have a
Sounds
poor
familiar to
perspective
one of
on
us.
something.
Actually,
Yeah,
sounds
that's totally
familiar
me
to
though
both
too.
of us.
Like
Yeah.
it's happened to me. It's happened to
Me.
like other. I've done it to people where they keep saying the same thing, and I'm like, shut the fuck up, like, and just give it to them how it is. And I usually don't regret those. I wouldn't call it stooping down to their level though. I think it's a part of the growing process. Like you're just kind of critiquing in a way because it's like you can't baby someone through the entire time. It's like, oh, it's gonna be okay. It's gonna be
Absolutely.
okay. Like you have to be like, listen, motherfucker, like just get over it. And but like I said, I don't think that's stooping it down. But at the same time, does it have to make you an adult? Probably not. I think we just kind of
Here's one where I will make
rambled into this one.
a direct reference to work. There's been this kid who's been coming in, a customer, and very talkative, and that's fine. But so I've shared pieces of my life with him, and he knows that I live in pain, and he's talking about like how bad his tooth pain hurts, and like, oh, it's so terrible, and like. If he hadn't
You're just
stopped,
like, "Oh."
if he hadn't stopped, I would have been like, you realize you're talking to a person who lives in pain every fucking day, every fucking day. Yeah, sometimes you really do just have to like stand up and just punch someone in the head to get the point across.
Yeah.
Especially kids. Yeah, too often.
Children.
I was one of those kids. You experienced it. I think you kind of walked me through a lot of the end of it where I would get wrapped up in my own negativity. Fuck, you used to at times too. I'm gonna go stare at Lake Erie for an hour. I'm sorry, I'm never gonna let that one die.
I found my chi out there.
That's where you learn to meditate.
Actually, no, that actually was not.
I know.
Yeah, it's just kind of funny.
Yeah, so yeah, but I want to keep saying I'm going to wrap up, but then something else pops into my head. Learning when to just give up. And I mean that in the sense of like you're trying to tell someone something. So like they're bad for you. The person you're with is bad for you, but they just don't want to hear it. And just knowing when to give up on that because because there are people who will just keep fighting that fight, and it's just like they're not hearing you. They might have never heard you, not even once.
No.
And so yeah, like still see that way too much in the young.
Hmm.
So
Definitely.
shall we?
Definitely. Yeah.
Let's
Let's
shall.
go.